Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into the fascinating, sometimes frustrating, and increasingly litigious world of Suno AI.
That's right. This is the AI music generator that's got everyone talking and, well, major labels filing lawsuits.
It's a technology moving at an incredible pace, isn't it? Creating both excitement and significant tension.
Definitely. So if you haven't heard of Suno, the basic idea is, well, powerful. You give it a simple text prompt.
Like a funky disco track about pigeons or something.
Exactly. Or, an indie rock song reflecting on the weather, and it tries to generate a complete song. Lyrics, melody, vocals, instrumental backing, all supposedly in seconds.
From just a few words, it conjures music. That's the core magic, I suppose.
It is. But to help us understand what's really going on behind the hype and the headlines, we've pulled together quite a stack of sources.
Yeah, we've got insights direct from users, on Reddit threads. There's a detailed comparison review from Tom's Guide.
Plus, analysis on business potential and safety from Unison Audio and Gab. And critically, we've got excerpts from that major copyright lawsuit filing by the RIA against Suno.
So it's a picture painted from very different angles. You've got the user maybe struggling with bugs.
The business seeing opportunity, the safety advocate raising warnings, and, yeah, the legal system drawing battle lines.
Our mission today is really to stitch these sources together. We want to understand the user journey, where it started, where it is now.
And look at the potential business applications, the safety considerations that maybe aren't talked about as much.
Right, and dive deep into those high-stakes legal challenges that are fundamentally questioning how AI music is built and, well, who owns what. It's complex, but genuinely captivating.
Absolutely. Where should we start? The user side.
Let's jump right into the user experience, yeah, because that's where the rubber meets the road. Initial reactions from the sources really highlighted this wow factor.
Oh, definitely. Users were genuinely stunned by the level of coherence Suno could produce from just simple text prompts.
It wasn't just generating a melody, it could even nail little transitional elements like drum fills or whooshes, apparently.
Yeah. And speed was a common theme near instant generation.
Yeah.
That initial moment of, it made this from that, was powerful.
But the early days, based on user feedback in these Reddit threads, before the big updates, were also full of significant hurdles.
Oh, for sure. A lot of core features were just buggy. Users reported things like extend, remaster, and replace section being, well, unreliable.
So trying to control the song's structure, like making it fade out or end properly, that was tough.
Incredibly difficult. And audio quality. That was a major pain point. The descriptions were pretty harsh sometimes.
Like what?
Voices could be hoarse, muddy, distorted, sometimes singing completely the wrong words. Instrumental parts, maybe strings or synths, might come in ear-splittingly loud and discordant.
Right. I saw one user description that was quite memorable, something about cauldrons.
Ah, yes, that one. Remastered drums and effects transforming into broken cauldrons that roll downhill.
Okay, broken cauldrons. That paints a vivid picture of some serious audio glitches.
Absolutely vivid, yeah. Users also found that prompts meant to control things like style, BPM, or key were often just ignored.
So you'd ask for one thing and get something else entirely.
Pretty much. And certain genres were particularly tough for the AI to get right. Trying to generate, say, melodic or vocal trance might give you shrill violins instead of lush synths, or completely miss the bass line. Styles like mid-80s neo-psychedelic or glam metal or 70s singer-songwriter, they often just defaulted to a more generic, maybe 2000s-era pop or electronic sound.
I remember reading about that user who tried for XTC-style neo-psychedelia.
And got a Z-esque banger from 10 years ago.
Yes. That's not just a miss, that's hitting a different planet.
Precisely. Users also dealt with songs getting interrupted midway, ending abruptly, or just not respecting the requested duration, especially if they were aiming for around 3.5 minutes.
And technical errors, too. Server issues.
Yeah, server errors were common messages like a clip got stuck or an error occurred. So inconsistency and technical problems were a huge part of that early experience.
Definitely sounds like it.
And there were issues with inconsistent stems. The individual tracks and the mastering sometimes added unwanted noise. A recurring complaint was what one user called a chaotic final minute.
Chaotic how?
Just the song piling on unnecessary layers and noise towards the end. The generated vocals, male and female, often sounded quite generic too. Someone described them as like early serials' top 40 hits.
Okay, so maybe lacking character.
And the MIDI melody patterns could be quite repetitive as well. It sounds like you needed a lot of patience and a lot of generations to get something usable back then.
That was a frequent comment, wasn't it? Someone needing 20 to 100 generations per verse.
Yeah, comparing it to a beta version of a slot machine. And even when trying to use the custom lyrics feature, the AI would sometimes just ignore them or make up other sections.
And the interface itself wasn't always helping things.
Not always. Small things, like the trash page, apparently randomizing song order and not having a search function added to the frustration, especially when you're managing tons of generations.
Right.
Some users even started speculating about a tiered system or maybe bandwidth problems affecting output quality, especially if you used it a lot.
Interesting. And editing within Suno was limited.
Very. Users wanted to be able to edit by highlighting words, not just time sections, or maybe replace just the voice track while keeping the instrumental. The get stems feature wasn't seen as super useful if the vocals weren't properly separated.
That Tom's Guide review seemed to echo some of this, mentioning that sort of trademark flat Suno vocal audio quality, strange pauses, monotone vocals.
And those dreaded car crash endings, yes. Those specific examples from the review align perfectly with the user feedback we saw.
Plus the little quirks, like the auto-generated lyrics sometimes using words from the prompt, like instrument names. My bass line is playing.
Right. Which is kind of funny, but also highlights the AI's literalness sometimes. It sounds like a lot of users felt like they were wrestling with the tool and really wished for better guidance or documentation early on.
That's a fair summary of that initial phase, I think. But the story doesn't end there, does it? These sources, especially the Reddit threads talking about updates around February and April, show a huge shift.
Okay, so let's talk about that shift. What were users reporting after these updates rolled out?
This is where the language just changes completely. Users started describing the sound quality as freaking amazing.
Extremely clear, crispy, insane, remarkable. That's quite a turnaround from Broken Cauldrons.
It really is night and day, isn't it? Vocals were reported as vastly improved, sometimes even perfect, with incredible polyphonic effects.
Things like nuanced inflections, melismas, riffs, runs, and apparently delightful harmonies. Voices were described as actually carrying emotion, not just sort of reciting the lyrics.
That's a big step.
Huge. And users saw that bass and drum kits were now actually aligning better with a specified style, and background noise and distortions were greatly reduced or even gone.
So those core audio quality issues seem to be genuinely addressed.
Largely, yes. Users reported getting much higher success rates. Someone mentioned up to 95%, especially when they started using more detailed prompts.
Prompt engineering. So specifying not just style, but production, structure, vocals, effects, tempo, key, duration, all that.
Exactly. And that near-instant generation speed, still a point of amazement. It seems like both the AI got better and users got better at, well, talking to the AI.
That makes sense.
Users also noted much more natural dynamic leveling, so tracks sounded more polished, fluid, and cohesive right out of the gate. And yes, those endings were apparently finally fixed. Complete, not abrupt cuts anymore.
Good to hear. And success across more genres.
Yeah. Users shared successful examples for rap, pop rock, ambient, dramatic, epic, even Eurodance. They even figured out specific prompt tricks for controlling pronunciation, like using sate to get the AI to say sight.
Wow, that level of detailed control is impressive. It shows users were really experimenting.
Definitely. And the AI was becoming more capable of responding to that detail. There was also relief when some old personas' user-defined styles, which were apparently broken by an update, got fixed later.
It's interesting, too, seeing how musicians on Reddit started talking about using Suno, not necessarily as a replacement, but more like a tool.
Yes, that's a key takeaway. Many musicians seem to view it as a useful starting point for ideas, maybe creating basic foundations or quick demos. It could significantly speed up that initial creative phase compared to just working in a traditional DAW.
And for non-musicians.
The ability to bring complex creative ideas to life using just words was highlighted as this massive empowering factor.
So, the user journey with Suno, it's clearly been one of rapid evolution, from those early, sometimes pretty frustrating inconsistencies and glitches.
To users now reporting genuinely impressive capabilities and much higher quality output, especially if they're careful with their prompts. It's been a bumpy road, no doubt, marked by periods of significant frustration, but balanced by moments of stunning capability and very rapid improvement in core areas like audio fidelity and structure.
Okay, so moving beyond the individual creators, the sources also look at the potential for AI music generation in a business context. What kind of impact could tools like Suno have there?
Well, Unison Audio specifically highlighted how AI composers could dramatically speed up the audio content pipeline for certain teams.
Like marketing departments, content creators, UX designers, people who need music fast.
Exactly. Instead of commissioning bespoke music and waiting days or maybe weeks, you could potentially generate dozens of variations for a specific need in minutes.
That sounds like a massive time and cost saver for certain applications.
It really does. They argue it's particularly valuable for tasks where, quote, absolute sonic perfection isn't the primary goal, but speed, volume, and just finding the right feel are more important.
Makes sense for background music or quick social media clips, maybe.
Right. They even described an example, workflow automating requests, using something like GPT maybe to suggest prompts, logging the generated variations, delivering them, all managed through tools like Google Sheets, potentially.
That level of workflow automation, it really paints a picture of efficiency gains.
It shows how this tech could be integrated for scale, not just one-off creations.
Now let's pivot to something else that came up, specifically in the Gab article, safety concerns. What risks were highlighted there?
Yeah, the Gab article raised some important points. One was the potential exposure to inappropriate or harmful lyrics, even with Suno's filters in place.
Because with so many user prompts, things can slip through.
Unfortunately, yes, unsuitable content can still be generated. A significant concern they flagged was the lack of robust parental controls or the ability for users to make their profiles and generated content private.
That definitely poses risks, especially for younger users who might share personal info in prompts or create revealing content without realizing it.
Exactly. Accessibility is great, but it comes with responsibility. The article also pointed out that under the free plan terms, Suno actually owns the content you create.
Oh, really?
Yes, and that all generated songs are stored by Suno. Users have to manually request data deletion if they have privacy concerns.
Okay, good to know. Now, the storm cloud that's gathered over AI music, the legal challenges. We have sources, particularly that RIAA filing, discussing a major lawsuit.
This is the big one. Everyone in the music and AI space is watching this. The RIAA filing details a lawsuit brought just this June 2024 by a coalition of major record companies.
Universal, Sony, Warner.
The big players?
Right, plus their associated labels. And it's against both Suno and another AI music company, Udio.
And the core accusation is
Pretty straightforward. Mass copyright infringement. The labels allege that Suno trained its generative AI model by copying vast amounts of copyrighted sound recordings from their catalogs without getting permission or licenses.
And their argument against this being considered fair use, which is often the defense in these cases. Their argument is that this copying is explicitly for a quintessentially commercial purpose, building a product to generate music. They contend that Suno's output directly competes with
Real human music.
Yes, competes with, cheapens, and ultimately drowns out genuine human recordings, thereby harming the market for those original copyrighted works.
Did the lawsuit filing give specific examples to back this up?
Yes, and this is where it gets really specific. The RIAA filing cites examples of Suno outputs that they claim sound like very well-known artists. They mention Michael Jackson, Bruce Springsteen, ABA.
Wow.
And perhaps even more pointedly, they claim the AI replicated specific producer tags like Cash Money AP's signature sound tag and even artist tags like Jason Derulo singing his own name at the start of a track.
So the implication is, how else could the AI do that unless it trained directly on those specific recordings?
Exactly, that's their argument. It strongly suggests direct training on these copyrighted sound recordings. The filing even quotes a Suno co-founder, apparently acknowledging the AI's capability to produce outputs that replicate real artists' voices.
So the labels are basically saying, you used our building blocks without asking, and now you're using them to compete directly against us.
That's the essence of it. They emphasize that AI developers have to follow copyright laws, and that developing this tech irresponsibly, without respecting protected works, is a fundamental threat.
A threat to artists, labels, the whole music industry ecosystem.
Yes. But they also make a point of saying they are open to licensing their catalogs for new tech, provided developers approach them properly.
It's interesting because you see this reflected in the user discussions too, right? People on Reddit were already wondering if Suno had to have trained on copyrighted music.
Yeah, and discussing the potential for lawsuits if the AI got too good at mimicking specific artists. Some even speculated about AI companies trying to move to countries with different copyright laws to avoid this kind of liability.
It shows how widespread that concern about the training data is.
Definitely. And just to circle back quickly to the commercial rights point from the Gab article, while pro and premium users are told they get legal ownership for commercial use.
This huge lawsuit alleging unlawful training data kind of throws a shadow over that, doesn't it?
It casts a significant legal uncertainty over the outputs, yeah, regardless of the user tier.
Okay, so looking forward now. The sources also speculate quite a bit on the future of AI music. What sort of predictions are being made?
Well, the overwhelming consensus from places like Unison Audio and the user discussions is that this technology is only going to get better, and probably quite quickly. They talk about vertical progress.
And what does that mean in practical terms for creators? What might we see?
Predictions include things like personalized AI models, essentially virtual clones trained on a specific user's unique sound, their workflow, their creative habits.
So an AI that really understands your style and process, that sounds more like a collaborator.
Exactly. That's the idea. They also foresee next-level tools like real-time emotion-based composition.
Where the AI responds to the creator's mood.
Potentially. And adaptive AI that continuously learns and evolves with the user. And then there are the more futuristic ideas, like neural interfaces connecting a creator's brain directly to the music software.
Okay, direct brain to music creation. That's definitely pushing into science fiction territory.
It's on the speculative horizon, for sure. The idea of fully autonomous AI studios was also discussed. AI that can handle everything from generation, mixing, mastering, even tailoring tracks to current trends.
Wow.
And maybe integrating AI with augmented reality to create immersive virtual creation spaces. Another interesting possibility mentioned is listener-based customization.
Meaning the song might change depending on who's listening or the context.
Yeah, the idea that a fixed static song might become less common, especially for things like background music or interactive content. Continued advancements in AI vocal replication are also widely expected.
And beyond the creative act itself.
AI could potentially handle more of the business side, too, assisting with contracts, royalty splits, that sort of thing.
So AI as a tool potentially spanning the entire life cycle of music, from idea to distribution.
That's the vision some sources are outlining. For creators looking to use AI now, the advice included using it as a source of new musical ideas, maybe training it on your own existing tracks to develop a personalized tool.
Blending AI-generated elements with traditional techniques.
Right, and using it to offload some of the more repetitive production tasks. Many sources argue strongly that AI should be seen as a way to enhance human creativity, acting as a collaborative partner or stepping stone.
That's the optimistic view, AI as an assistant, a collaborator, but the fear is also clearly there in the discussions.
Absolutely. Some users on Reddit voiced real concerns that AI could end up replacing human composers, especially for media like TV, film, and games.
Or that music platforms could just get flooded with automatically generated tracks, making it even harder for human artists to get noticed.
Exactly. So the debate is really ongoing. Do musicians need to adapt, embrace these AI tools, and figure out how to incorporate them, or risk being left behind by creators, whether they're traditional musicians or not, who fully leverage the technology?
It really feels like we're at a pivotal moment, doesn't it? Trying to figure out the role of this powerful, fast-moving technology.
It's a fundamental question for the entire industry, really.
So to wrap up this deep dive into Suno AI, it's clear we're looking at a technology that has moved incredibly fast. From those impressive but definitely glitchy first steps.
To something users are now describing with words like remarkable and insane, often in just a matter of months.
We've seen the significant potential for business efficiency, speeding up content pipelines where maybe volume and speed are key.
We've touched on those important safety considerations too, particularly around privacy and younger users, which come with such easily accessible generative tools.
And of course, we've seen the industry's major players drawing a line in the sand with that high-profile lawsuit. It challenges the very legality of how these AIs are trained on copyrighted music.
And raises fundamental questions about ownership and creativity itself. It's a rapidly changing landscape, sitting right at the intersection of creative potential, business opportunity, and really complex legal and ethical questions.
The speed of technical improvement is undeniable, though. That leap in quality users reported in just months is astounding.
It really is. But as that capability grows, the core tensions around intellectual property, fair use, and the very definition of creativity in this new era, they're only becoming more pronounced, more urgent.
Which brings us to the final thought for you, our listener. Considering how quickly AI music generators like Suno are evolving and the significant legal hurdles they're facing right now, how do you think AI will ultimately change how music is made? And maybe even change who gets to call themselves a musician?